Let's ball him.
He's always a soft spoken.
With Brian.
Kenny has been my friend for endless years. My friend, my roommate, my tournament mate, and everything else.
Don't
Kenny,
tell
I'm proud of you. Okay? Keep making good works.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Man and I, we met. Brian actually entered 1 year before me, but he had a broken leg playing football.
One second. I need you to do that again because but don't look down this time. Wait.
No, just one.
Okay.
And so he missed most of 1 year in school, so then we met up in Form 4. And the roommates last he said the roommates in tournament we made really, really good friends. On the football team, played left back. I played what in those days are called left half. Now we say left midfield. And you just covered for each other. Always. Also on the left side, good friend, captain of our team, Clarence Jeffrey, Rita.
Oh, I remember him.
Sorry, can't be here. But a guy who really is one of the beacons marking the way for GBSS in football. And there's a particular game from, I think it was September, early October 1963, when we were playing PBC. And we had beaten them 5-0 in the first round. And now the second round came, and we figured, we have them for lunch. But they came ready. They came ready. I gotta tell you, they defended well, they played well, and they almost beat us. Except for very late in the game, they got a corner on the right side. Tired legs stay poor corners unless you train your mind for what to do late in the game. Poor corner on left back, wasn't Brian at the time, so he just played it to Aurelia. He was fast, great dribbler, dribbled down the field, beat the whole Cowboys team, got to the goal line, gave goals, everybody beat, put it to the side, 1-1 late in the game. And we left, a few minutes before the end. They thought our bells, trumpets, and everything went quiet. And the thought of walking from Darbo to Canteen with our head and our tails between our legs was very depressing. But with that one goal and tying up the game, we left with our heads high, having snatched victory from the doors of BBC. And we were celebrating even the next morning in assembly. Was one of the greatest games in the history of GBS. But that notwithstanding, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I want to thank this gentleman here. Coleman is my friend from before I was 5 years old.
Wow.
We've been friends forever. Thank you, Norman, for organizing this. Kids. When one gets to a certain position like I am, you don't get there on your own. You get there by having people help you, people that you don't even know. There's so many things that have happened in my life where people gave kindnesses to me, and I was not aware that they were going to do that. And I'm so grateful that they have. And I'll give you 2 examples. When I was in graduate school and was about to finish, I wanted to go to Europe for a postdoc. In fact, going to Sweden when that was my number one target. I had contacted a professor there who did work in copper chemistry, and in fact I made a special trip to come down to New York from Amherst because there was a meeting of the American Chemical Society here, and he had come over for that. And we spoke, and he said, yes, send him my resume, and he was going to apply for a grant. And this was, I think, in the spring of 1975. And it got to be early 1976, and I had not heard from him. I wrote to him, and he responded that he did not get the grant. And so, having put all my eggs in one basket, and being unable to go to on-campus interviews when companies came on campus, because at that point I did not have a green card. My advisor was thinking of, said, well, you've got to get your postdoc in the US. And he was trying to help me, and I appreciated that. But there was one woman in my lab. She actually was not part of the inorganic chemistry department. She was part of the polymer science group. But she came up and had lunch with a group of us there. She was a teacher, chemistry teacher from Springfield, Massachusetts, who had taken a sabbatical to come to do a master's degree. And her father was a very senior scientist at Union Carbide. In fact, he's famous for a lot of things, including the first person to actually prepare gram quantities of plutonium, because he worked at the Manhattan Project. And it was Passover time, they were Jewish. She lived in Massachusetts, so she came down to Pleasantville, New York for Passover with her parents. And when she returned, she said to me, Ken, my father says send him your resume. And I asked, what does your father know about me? And she said, I told him everything he needs to know. I said, okay, thank you. And so a month passed. Ken, my father said he did not get your resume. Now, a person in my position, having very few options at that point, being given that second warning, then you got to do something. So I sent my resume to Dr. Litz. And that was in around June, I think, early June of 1976. And he circulated it at the Union Carbide campus in Tarrytown. And I was invited to an interview there in early July of 1976. And I got a job offer at the end of July. It's the only job interview I have ever had. And her name is Barbara Foster. And I have thanked her tremendously for this, because that one act of kindness, unrequested, really has led to all of this that has occurred. And I'll mention another one. I knew nothing about this honorary doctorate until I got a call from the Chancellor of the University of Alberta on February 18th of this year. His assistant called and said, could you be available for a call from the Chancellor? And I said, yes. I said, but why is the Chancellor calling me? He said, could you tell me? I asked, could you tell me? He said, I prefer that he tells you himself. And when the Chancellor came on and he told me that they're awarding me an honorary doctorate of science, I was so flabbergasted that I think I managed to say thanks. And then in the course of conversation he said that I'd been nominated by Professor Jordan. Professor Jordan was my inorganic chemistry professor at the University of Alberta. And he gave a class during my senior year in 1970 on copper chemistry, which really inspired me. And when I started my research work at the University of Massachusetts, I wrote to him because I wanted to find out, what were the sources, what were the references he had for that class. At the time, he was on sabbatical in Germany, and he wrote back to me. And that was in January of 1973. And that was my last communication with Professor Jordan until a few months ago. And it turns out that one colleague who also does silicon chemistry, she teaches, or used to teach, she's retired now, at the University of Western Ontario in Canada. We met at a number of conferences, we organized conferences together. She was the one who initiated this, who wrote to professors at University of Alberta, plus wrote to my colleagues at my company, Momentive, and instructed them that I must know absolutely nothing about this. And they put together a nomination package which Professor Jordan agreed to submit. And I spoke to Professor Jordan and he said that, Ken, my problem was I had so many letters of support and I could only submit 5. And I tried to balance them between submissions from academia and submissions from industry, because Professor Kim Baines, who was the one who got this one started, she canvassed a lot of folks. And so this, I mentioned initially the act of kindness of my lab mate in graduate school. And now the act of kindness of my colleague in silicon chemistry that I knew absolutely nothing about, that's brought about this just absolutely ennobling experience. I don't know how many of you have seen the live stream, the videotape. It was dignified. There are parts of it that you didn't see because that was not shown. First, you go into the room with the academic professionals, professors, deans, etc. It's called a robing room. Everybody puts on their robes. And I had 2 women who were very attentive, making sure everything fit right. And then the Chancellor addressed the assembled group, told them, okay, we're getting ready for the procession. Because first you have the robing, then you have the procession. And if you think of an analogy to religious rituals, religious ceremonies, it is apt because the academic rituals derived from the religious ones. So bishops and cardinals and so would get robed, and then they would process into the churches, into the cathedral, and somebody would be consecrated. And in a similar manner, process down the aisles of the auditorium, you get on stage, and as you would see, there was the introduction, and then the citation, and then the hooding. It's all very, let's say, ritualized. That's the way it's done pretty much in every institution globally. I don't get to keep the robe, the scarlet and white, but I get to keep the hood. It's not yet mailed to me, and the big citation, the parchment in that doll frame, that's going to be mailed to me because that would have been too much to carry back with me. I was told that I had to give the convocation address in about 800 words, and it should take 5 to 7 minutes. And I thought for a number of weeks of how to put this thing together, and I'm thinking about it. One decision I made was I'm not going to write anything down until after I've filed my taxes. I didn't want to be distracted. So shortly after April 15th, I started writing down stuff, and it soon became clear that I had to link GBSS to an experience in Guam, to University of Alberta. I decided that with that limit of 800 words, I could not include anything much but a passing reference to the University of Massachusetts or even to Brandon University. And so I tried in that address to use ideas in our schools. Prize to one word, the torch handed on by others, we must keep a light today. And to link that to that really, really inspiring motto of the University of Alberta, Quae cum vera, whatever is true. I was able to put all of that together. And to mention Mr. Ranjit. Now, you probably remember Mr. Ranjit?
Indian.
Tony, you remember Mr. Ranjit, the blacksmith?
He was an Indian.
The blacksmith,
Yeah.
right? St. Peter Street.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Shop restaurant.
My first introduction to what happens to materials and matter when you heat them and you pound them and you shape them is observing Mr. Ranjit, the blacksmith. I lived on St. Bernard Street. If you go up St. Bernard Street past the back gate of the Anglican Church, 20 yards on, you're outside the blacksmith shop. And I used to go and just look through the window. And one day he invited me to come in and pump the bellows to heat the things. Well, that was my invitation. After that, I'm just going, good morning, Mr. Ranjit. I walk right in. I mean, I didn't need to be invited in a second time, And I'm right there watching him. He's heating the metal. I thought about this many times. Mr. Ranjit is not measuring any temperature, but from his experience, from his skill, he's in retrospect now realizing he is observing when the metal is beginning to flow, and that's the point at which it becomes malleable and you could shape it. And I was in there seeing him, you know, he takes it out of the fire and he cools it rapidly in water so that the structure stays together. And then he makes the horseshoes and, you know, seeing him shoe the horses, seeing him make tools and so. And I think that that is really what got me interested initially in the transformational method. And then going to GBSS, Dr. Pitt, you know, great inspiration. Dr. Bloom too, but not for chemistry, but for botany and zoology. Had great teachers. People who, teachers who were really interested in seeing you progress, make much of your talent. You have talent. Okay? Talent is universal. Everybody has talent. Opportunity is not. And so when the opportunity comes, you've got to grasp it. The talent alone is not sufficient for sustained success. You've got to have the passion for the subject area, and you've got to have the perseverance, because there are always going to be challenges. Everything is not going to come to you very easily. There are always going to be challenges. But you have to stick with it, find a way to succeed. And with the help of many people, I think I have. And so I want to thank all of you for coming out today. I want to thank those who couldn't come. I was really surprised that Kirani was part of this. He's a good guy. Really admire him. And my tournament buddies, we talk a lot about that. We talk a lot about tournament because it was for us certainly the number one event as a student athlete going to GBSS at that time. To be selected for tournament, to go and do well, to go and win, and bring the trophies back. This was amazing. And so, like I've written a number of times, you know, some people might get bored and tired hearing these old men talk about what they used to do. But it still lives with us. We did it, and we walked. It's the feet, the fathers and brothers. These are the beacons marking the way, okay? Winning tournament in 1965 in St. Vincent. We won football, we won track and field. Okay? That was great. So again, I want to thank you all. Okay? Thanks for coming. I really do appreciate it.
Kirani, the funny thing, Kenny never told me about Kirani. Actually, I only met Kirani once, but we are in touch fairly regular. And it was Kirani who told me how Kenny helped him. And then I told Kenny, I said, I didn't know you helped Kirani. So, you know, sometimes you do things and you don't have to mention it. But I could tell you, Kirani really appreciates what Kenny did. Whatever the contribution, it was so meaningful at that time. But for those of you, we have my book bags here. Kenny's convocation is in academic terms, or his speech, we will say grassroots from the printed copy.
Well, there you have it. Dr. Kenrick Lewis, scientist. I must say that. Genuine Grenadian scientist. And I'm so glad we came out here to pick him up today. because indeed he is a great Grenadian. And we must take time to applaud those among us who do well. And Dr. Kenrick Lewis, great example. Graduate of the Grenada Boys Secondary School. And all the students of GBSS should be proud of this scientist. We are proud of him. Those of us who attended the St. John's Christian Secondary School, where he taught for a number of years. So here in Jamaica, Queens, we came out here today to say nice things to Dr. Kenny Lewis while he is with us. This was organized by another historian, Mr. Holman Hall. I had the opportunity of going to Belvedere and knowing a lot about Julian Feather, the areas that Julian Feather walked in Belvedere. God bless. Anthony. Yeah. Edric, yeah, he taught at Shaper.
For the 60th anniversary of the school, I mean, I was going to go, but it was on the eve of the presidential inauguration. And for various
Anthony
reasons, I couldn't go.
Wendell.
But I drafted the speech.
Durham.